Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. On today's Just Reacts, we're going to be reacting to this lovely news. Kieran Tierney announces his new contract. If you didn't know, now you know. Kieran Tierney has officially signed a new contract with Arsenal Football Club, which is amazing news for us. I'm so happy. I'm almost speechless in a way. I can't, I believe it, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, we're actually getting our good players re-signed on new deals quickly. I love it. So if you guys are as excited as me about Kieran Tierney's new contract, just go ahead and drop a number 3 in the chat box. Just go ahead and drop it in there. And also let me know how you guys are feeling. Are you happy about the new deal? What would you like to see happen next? All that kinds of stuff, so just let me know in the chat box really quick. Drop a number 3 in the chat if you are excited about Kieran Tierney's new deal. I'm loving it. I'm seeing all these 3s. Yes, you guys. There's about 20 of you guys watching right now. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. So I will be kind of going through, what they've written on the website about Kieran Tierney's new deal and all that great and wonderful stuff. And then we'll kind of talk about how we get the best out of Kieran Tierney next season, because although I think that he's been one of our best players, especially last season, even with all the injuries, there's more that we can get out of him. He should have more assists than he gets, so we'll talk about how we can protect him, what the left back cover should look like, because we still have yet to address that. And then we'll also talk about what the strikers need to do, or, what the striker at Arsenal should be doing in order to take advantage of the wonderful crosses that Kieran Tierney puts in, because I feel like that's still an area of improvement that Arsenal needs to get to. You can't have somebody putting in crosses the way Kieran Tierney does, and not take advantage of it. Tom Water says, it's my birthday. What a way to celebrate it. It's coming home. Yeah. Happy birthday. This is nice news to have on your birthday. So I'm loving it. My birthday is January 10th. And usually on my birthday, all we get is people moaning and crying about not getting players during the January transfer window. So there you go. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically, Arsenal news, Tierney is here to stay, signs a new long-term deal. I saw that Fabrizio Romano had said that it's till June 2026. It's a 5-year deal, which is amazing. They kind of talked about Kieran Tierney's time at Celtic. He made 170 appearances, winning 4 Scottish Premier League titles, which is amazing. 2 FA Cups and 2 League Cups. On the international stage, he scored on his debut for Scotland under-18s before being called up to the full national side as a teenager. I mean, he's already quite accomplished at such a young age. Edu said that we are so pleased to have agreed a new long-term deal with Kieran. Anyone who has seen him play will recognize very quickly that he is a player of huge ability, but I can tell you that he is also a player with a fantastic attitude and mentality. Kieran's new contract is not just about the present and next season, it's with long-term vision, and Kieran being an integral part of the future of the club. Arteta said that this is great news for us today. As manager of the club, speaking on behalf of the coaching staff and the entire staff, it's a pleasure to work with KT. His quality, energy, commitment, and professionalism, not only on match days, but every day in training, are always such a high level. So that's high praise from, the manager and the technical director. Kieran Tierney is a part of our short-term vision and our long-term vision at the club, which I think is really important. I'm not surprised to see any of the things that they're saying there. I think there's been, enough evidence over the last 2 years to kind of suggest what kind of player Kieran Tierney is, what kind of man Kieran Tierney is. I mean, I remember hearing whispers of, some of the older players, the more established players in the team telling him to settle down during training because he was tackling too hard. And when I read that, I thought, this is the kind of player that we need. We need to let go of this soft mentality, bring in proven winners. And even it doesn't matter where you win the trophies at, winning the Scottish Premier League 4 times is a huge accomplishment for somebody of Tierney's age. So we have a proven winner on our hands that knows what it takes to get things done. And we've even seen in clutch games, when Arsenal was really struggling, even like in the Europa League, Kieran would take it upon himself to make things happen. And for a long time, we haven't had players like that in our team. We've had players that hid in big moments, players that, are being paid the big bucks. But when it comes down to the harder games, the games where people really need to show up, they tend to hide. And Kieran Tierney is the exact opposite. I think he sets a very good example for our young players on what to do, and how to be an Arsenal football player. And, I love everything about this guy, so I love what they said. I'm not surprised at all about what they're saying, to be honest. We kind of know this, so, and the video that they put together for him, I thought was very nice and wholesome and not too much. I think we can get a little carried away with, the announcement videos. I can think of one in particular, Umami, where it was just a little bit too much. It was just very nice to hear Kieran Tierney talk about his experience at the club. I think it's important for the fan base to feel like, our players are happy. And he said as much, that he's happy. It wasn't a difficult decision to sign another deal with Arsenal. And he also had some really nice things to say about Arteta. I know as a fan base, it's pretty split on Arteta, in terms of should he be the manager of Arsenal Football Club at this moment. I've always said that I feel like he shouldn't have gotten the job to begin with. But now that he does have the job, what I'd like to hear is that the players actually like working with him, especially the players that we really care about, our Kieran Tierney's, Saka, ESR. It's important for us as fans to feel like the players are getting along with the manager. It just feels like so much drama is always happening at Arsenal. So that's really, really good to hear. So let's see what you guys are saying. I'm seeing tons of threes. Good evening, Sean. Nice to see you too. Nice to see you, Matt G, as well. You're always here. I love it. Jason 3, yeah, throw those threes in the chat box if you guys are excited about Kieran Tierney signing that new deal. Olivier says, with Saka, ESR, Pepe, Ben White, I mean, it's looking pretty good. I'm quite excited about what it seems like we're doing as a football club. And I've said this many times on the show that we can be quite critical, of what the club is doing, and especially when it comes to the results on the pitch. But some of the things that have been happening off the pitch, in terms of our squad building and re-signing some of our young and bright stars on new deals, I think the club has done a really good job of getting those things done. Because they weren't getting done before, under Raul. It just, some of the players were slipping in between the cracks. And I think it was a difficult job for Arteta and Edu to figure out a way to, bring some players back, like, even like somebody like Balogun onto a new deal, to get Saka to sign a new deal, to get Martinelli on a new deal, things like that. So as much as we want to be super critical, I think it's also important to give credit where credit is due. And if Edu and Arteta were to leave tomorrow, one thing I could say is that I'm really happy that, we were actually able to get these players on longer term deals, because it's just something that we haven't been good at over the last couple of years. And I don't doubt that some of this, the quickness in which these deals are getting done have something to do with Richard Garlick too. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. Yep. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. So I kind of want to look at Kieran Tierney's statistics really quick, just because I haven't looked at them. Usually we look at statistics for players that we may want to see come in, but Kieran Tierney is somebody that he passes the eye test. He really, really does, so it's not every day that I look to see what Kieran Tierney is doing from a statistical standpoint, but I just wanted to pull this up really quick. He's in the 79th percentile, and this is against other fullbacks, right? In the 79th percentile for non-penalty goals. One of the stats that I'm looking at that really stands out to me is his expected assists. He's in the 83rd percentile, and per 90, it's 0.14. I mean, some of his numbers from a fullback perspective are pretty good, and we do know that he tends to be a little bit more offensive. So his offensive numbers should look pretty good, So I'm loving some of this stuff, like progressive carry, 65th percentile. He attempts about 6 progressive carries per game, almost like 5.5, so that's really good. Progressive passes, almost 4, which is great, progressive passes received, 3.33 per 90 in the 80th percentile. So Kieran Tierney tends to get forward a lot. A lot of fullbacks, I think, are the person making the pass, but we know Kieran tends to get into the penalty box, and he receives a lot of progressive passes, and I love that about him. And then obviously, his crossing is immense, so I just wanted to take a quick look at that. He's ranked like in the league 8th, oh no, wait, hold on. That's not it. There's one where they show you how high they're ranked, or maybe that's another program. No, I think that's another program, but we can do a deeper dive another day. But looking at his statistics, I think he passes the eye test, but he also statistically is very good for a fullback in terms of his offensive output. But we also know that Kieran is quite good defensively. And it's not because of like his one-on-one duels. I think we've seen him get skint a couple of times by players that everybody has a hard time dealing with, but his commitment to defending for the club is something that, that can take you far. Your commitment can take you a little bit further than, your ability. So when we see him do those sliding tackles and last ditch efforts and all that kind of stuff, that just comes from Kieran Tierney being Kieran Tierney. So now we can kind of talk about, what needs to happen next season to get the best out of Kieran. And I think it's a 2-part type answer. And for me, when I was kind of answering this myself, I was thinking we have to protect him with a left back cover. And I think there's a big conversation to be had, especially amongst the fan base, because a lot of people stand on different sides with this, is what that left back cover should look like. Should it be somebody a little bit more experienced, maybe somebody that's okay with sitting, behind Kieran Tierney, or should we be looking for a more long-term option? And then also looking at it from a striker aspect, Kieran Tierney is one of the best crossers of the ball in Europe. Like, he just is. And he creates about 4 chances per game. That's very high for a fullback. And to go through games and see Lacazette and Aubameyang kind of ducking away from these balls, not attacking these crosses, I'm thinking that we're missing something. So we can also kind of have a short conversation about what the striker should look like, and maybe name some that would be good to have with Kieran Tierney putting those crosses in. So let's talk about left back cover. We kind of had a conversation about it yesterday during our live Q&A. If you guys didn't get a chance to watch that, I suggest after you leave here, go and watch that because we covered so many different things, but we did touch on the left back cover, and surprise, surprise, we didn't agree. I think some people feel like, just get somebody that's cheaper, on a free, a little bit older and experienced, because if Kieran was out for the first couple of games of the season, I actually think Harry said this, that if he's out for the first couple of games, if it's somebody who's a little bit younger, we'd probably be putting too much responsibility on somebody too early, but we know what kind of comes with these more experienced guys, right? Your Van Arnholts, your Ryan Bertrands, they're looking to sew up their future. They're looking to get on longer term deals with a secure amount of money so that they can just sit back and relax. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of risk that comes with that, especially with Arsenal not being so good at writing contracts that put us in a good position, with these types of players. I think there's a lot of reluctance based on maybe even somebody like a Cedric, somebody who was, kind of pitched to us and marketed to us as somebody who could play off of the right and the left. And when Kieran Tierney was out, we saw that Arteta was very reluctant to use him as a left back. So what's the point of having him here on a 4-year deal at like 75 grand a week? So those are things that we really have to look at, but then the other side of the coin is what young player is going to come to Arsenal Football Club to play second fiddle to Kieran Tierney. It's not like you're playing second fiddle to some 30-year-old guy who, that they're going to try to ease you into the first team and get you some minutes. It's not really like that because Kieran's so young. He's our starter, and if he's fit, he plays. So what young player is going to come out to Arsenal and know that they'll play about 20% of the games, if that, because we even saw that Arteta, even if Kieran Tierney was like 75% fit, he still played, so there's no even guarantee that if Kieran is not, a little bit off, that he still wouldn't play, you know what I mean? So there's definitely a very difficult decision that needs to be made by the board, because to me, this is not a position that can go unaddressed. I think left back cover is actually more important, in my opinion, than right back, because we can get away with right back, but you can't get away with Kieran Tierney being out for 10 games during the Premier League and we don't have suitable backup. But what does suitable backup really look like? So you guys can let me know. There's about 40 of you guys watching right now. So get in the chat box and let me know what type of left back cover would be suitable in your opinion for Arsenal. Is it more of a Van Arnholt, somebody who can be trusted, somebody with some experience in the Premier League, will probably want significant wages and a longer term deal. So you have to think about that as well. Or is it more a younger fit, somebody who can kind of apprentice under Kieran Tierney, that type of person, but lacks the experience, I want to see what you guys have to say. Gunnar Vittel says Tierney got robbed badly this season for assists. Yes, he did. Sean says there's no way all these young players are signing if they don't trust Arteta and Adu. Kudos to them for once, people. J October says Big Tierney. Adu deserves credit for these contracts. Olivier says we now need someone as threatening as KT on the other side for right back. Bowie the Cat says DCL or Isaac for a striker. J October says, why do I get Yaya Sanogo vibes from Isak? I don't know why. Olivier says Nacho is coming back. I think Nacho is somebody who's was very underrated and underappreciated by the Arsenal fan base until he was gone. It's like once he left and I saw Kolasinac like with very clear vision, I was like, wow, this is just not the same. And Monreal was old reliable, he's still playing now in La Liga, doing well. And I wish we would have had the foresight, to be able to convince him to stay at Arsenal and play, behind a new left back, but it just didn't work out that way. He was quite ready to go, but I would love Nacho to come back. Bowie the Cat says Van Holt for free. Yeah, Van Holt for free. Olivier says Monreal. Sean says, wouldn't mind a younger profile. Would have liked Tyreek Mitchell. Nocturnal Gunner says, I love Nacho. Definitely Mr. Reliable. Exactly. So it's just, I feel like, and this may look like a mistake, or um, this may look like a mess, to the Arsenal fan base based on the fact that it's like, well, why don't we have somebody coming through the academy, or why does this seem like such a difficult thing to attack? But ultimately, the mess that Edu and Arteta and Richard Garlick have to fix is not really something that had to do with them. This is something that was done prior to them being here. There's been, in my opinion, very little future planning and long-term squad building at Arsenal for a very long time. It just kind of seems like we have no ability to see past our nose. Like, we can't look beyond that and say, well, what kind of moves can we make in order to, make sure that when this person is not here, or this person is a little bit older, we have somebody to step straight in. I find it very strange that we don't have any ready-made or under 23 level right backs and left backs in the Arsenal Academy that could kind of step into these positions. I think that that's a positions that need to be addressed, within the academy. But in the short term, maybe it would be okay to bring in somebody that's a little bit more established. The key would be for Richard Garlick to make sure that they don't offer them more than a 2-year deal. And in the meantime, while that person is playing under Kieran Tierney, they bring somebody into the academy to get ready to take over when that older person, that Van Arnholt / Bertrand type person, is ready to go. They can step straight in. But maybe that's harder to do in reality. But for me, that is something I would like to see the club do. It's not really a big deal to me if you bring Van Arnholt in. It just has to look short term. 2 years, a 2-year deal on moderate wages, to me, says short term, but high wages and a 4-year deal just seems so dumb and something that we should avoid. So if Richard Garlick was able to drop a contract that would say 2 years and moderate wages, and we brought somebody into the academy, I feel like that would be the best way to address both issues. The fact that we kind of need experience now. We can't have somebody where if Kieran Tierney were to get injured in the first couple of weeks of the season, that we were relying on a kid. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're not pinning ourselves or attaching ourselves to an older player that's going to inevitably drag us down in the future. G October says, I want a younger player for left back, but if we get an older one, I would rather we get it at the end of the season once that is our last option. Okay. Sean says, I like Ryan at Nuri from Angers. Did he not do a loan? Did he do a loan at Wolves? Was that him? Ryan. Yep, that is him. So what did you think about him when he played for Wolves? He was at Wolves this past season, 1 goal. Let's check his stats for a second. Ryan at Nuri. I could have sworn he played mostly like a wingback. When I saw him, it felt like he was playing as a wingback, so that's something that you'd have to take into consideration. What is his defensive capabilities? Ryan at Nuri has very good offensive statistics that I'm looking at right now. Pass completion in the 92nd percentile, progressive carries in the 82nd, percentile, dribbles completed in the 98th percentile. He had 2.5 successful dribbles completed per 90 minutes. Touches in the attacking penalty area is quite high as well. His pressures are very high in the 86th percentile with about 15 pressures per game. So he's a player that obviously is very good offensively. He's on the front foot. He's very, ready to go on the attack. But when I look at his defense, I'm not sure if it really matches up because we do play with a back four, and we kind of do rely on Kieran Tierney to come back sometimes and defend for us, but that's a good shout. El Jefe says, man, Gosens would have been attainable before the Euros. I mean, before the Euros, yes, but this is also somebody who's starting, is he at Atalanta? So would he at 26 years old want to come and sit behind Kieran Tierney? I'm not quite sure. And El Jefe, this picture of Aubameyang that you have for your profile picture, every single time I see it, I freaking die. It's horrible. Rawinder says, club made so many good decisions after Arteta and Edu took over. Look, a lot of people don't want to see it because they just don't want Arteta and Edu to be the people. For me, I want them to be successful because they're running the club right now. If they end up being unsuccessful, then we can start talking about moving them on. But we can't turn a blind eye and say that some of the moves that they've made since they've been here have been positive. And so give credit where credit is due. Exactly, Rawinder. Bowie the Cat says Saka can cover, although I'm not too keen on that option. Me neither. With Saka, it's just he's such a key part of our offense. So quite similar to the way that Arteta decided to use Granit Xhaka as a left back, it weakened our midfield. And we saw having Ceballos fill in there, how many mistakes, that kind of manifested, from having Xhaka at left back. So although it's not exactly similar because you have Pepe to step in, I would prefer Saka to just kind of play in his position. I think at a certain point in his career, as he's getting older, he needs to have a solidified position, moving forward. It's okay for him to be, versatile now, but as he gets older and progresses in his career, I'd like to see him in a specific position, and just dragging him around the pitch and just throwing him where we need somebody, I think it will be detrimental to him soon. So he can cover there, but let's just get a left back. Ivy says a younger left back who wouldn't mind sitting on the bench. Older players do not tend to cut it for us. Lichtsteiner is a good example. There's a lot of people who don't even remember Lichtsteiner. I don't know if they shut him out of, they shut him out of their memory or whatever, but we definitely have not done well with bringing in experienced players that are supposed to do a job and just get us over the line. It hasn't really worked out. So I do agree with that. Let's see. Sean says, I don't want to ever see him at left back again. King Saint says, hi, Jess. Do you think it's right to give Tierney the armband, or will it harm Abba's confidence? I definitely wanted to talk about that too. We can roll into that conversation now if you guys want to, and then kind of talk about strikers towards the end if that's better. But I did want to talk about the captaincy a little bit too. Let me just catch some more of these comments really quick. Haji says, Saka will be so tired after the Euro. Everything is new to him. Nocturnal Gunner says, what is there to remember? That he was horrendous. Bowie the Cat says possibly 3-4-3 if he got injured. I mean, yeah, that's a very good point, is that we could change the formation if it's something that we're comfortable with, if he's not fit, So that's not, a bad shout either. We just have to be careful about making sure that, because for me, although I feel like we'll always be flexible in the way that we play, meaning that, we'll play kind of like a 4-3-3, a 3, whatever, like 3 in the back, 4 in the back type of thing, rotating, throughout the game. I also don't want to see us flip-flopping our formation when people get injured, because I think it can confuse the group. So as a backup option, that would be okay if we're comfortable with the formation, but I would prefer us just to be able to plug and play somebody else and not have to shift the way that we play. So let's talk about the captaincy a little bit. I think for a while people have been calling for Kieran Tierney to be captain of Arsenal, and there's some people that were like, he's too new, he's too young, he is too injured, whatever. But quite frankly, I don't think any of that matters. I think if you have a leadership group, which I feel like we always will, they will pick up the slack when Tierney's not available. But we need somebody to represent us, in the captain's meetings. I think it's weird that Aubameyang doesn't attend the captain's meetings and Bellerin does. And what I read is that Kieran Tierney will take Bellerin's place. So what I'm assuming is that means he'll be going to the captain's meetings, which is good, which is a soft factor, not anything that has to do with on the pitch, but ultimately we need somebody who's a captain off the pitch and on it, and that's a part of the job. I also just feel like we just need a captain that just makes sense, and he does make sense. He leads us on the pitch. He's a true leader, and he's good enough to do it. I think although, Holding and Xhaka, have leadership qualities, they're not good enough to back it up. Most captains, even though they may not be the best player on the team, you can never question should they be in the team. Does that make sense? Some people have older captains that are just kind of like figurehead types, like maybe like a Mark Noble at West Ham, but like Declan Rice is pretty much the captain of that team. And you can't really question whether he should be in the team or not. Rob Holding can't be captain of Arsenal because we'll always be questioning whether he's good enough to be in the team. So I think Kieran Tierney hits all those different points of, does he lead us on the pitch? Yes. Is he a proven winner? Yes. Is he good enough to be in the team where we'll never question whether he should be out there or not? No. He does hit that as well. So I think he'd be a good fit for the captaincy. Now, do you strip Aubameyang? I'm not sure if we need that type of drama going into next season when we desperately need Aubameyang to start scoring goals if we don't bring in another striker or whatever. I'm going into next season believing that Aubameyang will be the striker. And if he is, and Lacazette is not there, and we're counting on Balogun as our second striker, then we need Aubameyang scoring. And the last thing you want to do is strip him. He's somebody that just seemed to be quite fragile, when things kind of didn't go his way after the North London derby. I think that is the moment where it was just kind of like, okay, like you're pretty fragile, you got dropped. And yes, like it was quite like the media made a meal out of it. But this is somebody that, if you like the spotlight when things are good, then don't shy away from it when things aren't going right, and it just seems like that's not equal. And so, if you take the captaincy away from him, which at Arsenal, at any other team, it probably wouldn't be a big deal. But because it's Arsenal and we're going into the most important season, and then it's Aubameyang, it'll be blown out of proportion. And will he go into next season not at the peak of his confidence? Is that something we're willing to risk just to give Kieran Tierney the captaincy when we can just wait another season when Aubameyang should be sold and then give it to him? Is it worth it? I'm not sure. I think adding Kieran Tierney into the leadership group is the best thing. And then when Aubameyang leaves the summer after, then you strip him after that, not right before the most important season when we kind of need him to score goals. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's okay to strip Aubameyang? Do you think it's the wrong thing to do? Let me know. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes, all those great and wonderful things. Haji says, give it to Party. Not sure if he's quite there yet. I mean, what I do love is that it feels like his confidence and his personality is coming out a little bit more. So it feels like he's a little bit more confident and comfortable, but I'm not quite sure if he's captain material in terms of Arsenal Football Club, such a big, prestigious club. Like, I know that the captaincy doesn't mean a lot for a lot of people, a lot of fans, but I think it's important enough to the team where we should be giving it to somebody who can kind of hold that weight. And I'm not sure if Thomas is quite there. Whereas I think Tierney, in the midst of bad injuries, in the midst of the team playing like crap, in the midst of it all, he was still able to really perform. Haven't quite seen that from Thomas yet, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being a part of the leadership group because I think he's a silent leader, more of like a Fernandinho type. So we'll see what happens. Ian says, Tierney is a winner and demands 100% of himself and those around him. Exactly. Boy the Cat says, Tierney's 24 now and perfect captain material. Nocturnal Gunner says, he leads by example on the pitch and he's very vocal on the pitch as well. Yeah. Oof. Why did that get so big? Okay. So Arsenal Way says, we need a Aubameyang. O'Malley says, I don't see the point in keeping Rob Holding. He is not at the level to make us a top 4 team. We might as well sell him while his stock is high. Interesting point. Sean says, we're not in the dressing room to make a judgment. The captain can be anybody, in my opinion. Haji says, Laka or Abba, if you have to sell one, it has to be Lacazette, just because I just think his story has ended at Arsenal, but if I could sell both, I would. Williams is old and should be captain. Haji says Laka can hold up the ball and can defend. Ivy says Tierney should be the captain. I don't think it will cause any issues. I may be wrong, though. Ian says, agreed. Don't take that from Abba. It'll ruin him and damage the team morale. Leave for another season and then give it to Tierney. Ian, I think that's the best thing to do, but what I do think that's important that Arsenal is doing is removing some key cultural figures and pillars within the squad. So you have David Luiz, Bellerin, and Xhaka. These are like 3 players that have been captainy types, leaders in the squad, but their brand of leadership, I don't necessarily feel is what Arsenal needs right now. I think we need more Kieran Tierneys, it's different, so it's like, yes, they were leaders and they stepped up when the rest of the team was like kind of crap. And, they've been leaders for us in the last maybe 2 years or so, but their brand of leadership is not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. We need to expect more. And it kind of goes back to, we could always question whether Xhaka was good enough to be in the Arsenal team. That's not captain material. Bellerin as well. David Luiz, which is somebody who, although you can't really trust him because he's so not error prone, but he makes mistakes, like really big ones, So I think removing those cultural figures from the team, that a lot of what we do is built around them, even though they're not really good enough. We need a new era. We need a fresh start. And it kind of started with Ozil, Kolasinac, Mustafi, these guys. And then now we're removing that next layer down. And then so all that will be left pretty much is the players that we're going to bring in, plus our young core, your Tierneys, your Gabriels, these players that we brought in. And I think we're going to have a really good core of fresh-faced new Arsenal players that can kind of build their own reputation and their own thing, because the players from the last 5 years, their whole Arsenal career has been built around pretty much the decline of Arsenal. And I don't really think the players that we have now, the players that we'll bring in, and our young core should be, kind of looped into that. So I think they deserve the chance to kind of create their own identity and future and all that kind of stuff. And it's really important, that we just remove those pillars of influence away from the team, which we are doing. J October says, all the players love Abba and respect him as captain, and I believe a captain is more important to their teammates than for us fans. Removing him would cause unnecessary drama. Arsenal Way says, if we was in the Champions League, we would have gotten Varane. He is going for the same as Ben White, and Varane is better. I mean, we're not in the Champions League. It's just kind of like, okay, well, we're not in the Champions League. Yeah, they cost the same, whatever. It's just, I get what you're saying, but we're not in the Champions League, and Ben White is a good player and it's very separate. And I wouldn't say that because if we were in Champions League and we could have gotten Varane and we're paying the same as we would for Varane, that has something to do with Ben White. I think Ben White is a good signing. I'm backing it. I like it. Sean says Abba was selected behind Xhaka to be captain by the players, so that's important. Haji says a captain doesn't come late. Let's see. El Jefe says hypothetical. Darren says KSE. O'Malley says, right, we are where we are. Like, yeah, for me, El Jefe is saying if we were in Champions League, we could have won it. I mean, yeah, if we were, you know. So yeah, I think ultimately we kind of mostly agree that, you know, Kieran is probably good captain material. We don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, but do we really need to have unnecessary drama going into this next season? Probably not, you know. But while we're kind of talking about Aubameyang, I do want to kind of just touch on, you know, what do we need to do up top to make sure we can take advantage of, you know, Kieran Tierney's, you know, good crosses and all that kind of stuff? It's something that's really important to me. I don't know if it's important to you, so you guys can just kind of let me know in the chat box, you know, hey, it doesn't really matter, it's fine. But when you have such an excellent crosser of the ball, you know, somebody who gets into the final third really well and puts in very high quality crosses, whether they're lower or higher. Like if you just think about the difference in quality in terms of delivery from the right than from the left, I think we can kind of, you know, conclude that Kieran really is an asset on that left-hand side. Do we have a striker issue? Is that something that you'd like to see us address over this summer window? Do you think we need somebody that could, you know, get on these crosses, or is it just is what it is? You guys let me know in the chat box what you think, because personally I think if we can if we could address it and it doesn't affect other things and Lacazette leaves, then maybe it would be okay, you know, to bring in somebody that could get on the end of these crosses. I think we are pretty weak aerially. And the thing is, what's funny is that the Invincibles, you know, were quite weak aerially as well. If you guys watched that masterclass coaching session with Freddie Ljungberg, he talked about how they weren't really good in the air. That wasn't their game. But again, this is an elite group of 15 to 16 players that were running rings around people. And it's kind of similar to City in a way. I don't think they're really that great in the air, but they're so dominant that it doesn't matter. We need different ways of scoring goals. And if you have somebody like Kieran Tierney on your team, you should figure out a way to address it or at least take advantage of it, right? Sean says, I believe once we get better players the better players we can trust and it'll be better. J October says Tierney should be vice captain. I think that will be enough for him till Abba leaves. O'Malley says, I think we need a striker in the early to mid 20s to carry the torch after Aubameyang leaves and pass it down to Balogun. Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. This is kind of where I think maybe, you know, mid 20s, you know, what do you guys think of Dominic Calvert-Lewin? You know, are we too bougie for that guy? Do you think he's not, you know, good enough? You know, what do you guys think? Because I think he could get on the end of those Tierney crosses. I really, really do. I think when you have to play against Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you have to take notice. You know what I mean? There's certain types of strikers in the league that teams are afraid of. I know when we were playing Everton, the first thing I would think is, oh my God, got to play against Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And that's been since last season, basically when Ancelotti came in. And I just thought, wow, like he could get the best out of this player. And he looks a real player, you know, and I know people are like, well, I don't think he's leaving. This would be the perfect time to test their resolve. You know, Ancelotti just ditched the project. You know, what does that really mean for Everton Football Club? You know, are they bringing in Rafa Benitez? That's not really an inspired managerial appointment. And I think he's an Arsenal fan. So, you know, I would test their resolve, you know, if that's the type of striker that I was looking at, you know, but that's just me because I've seen him in the Premier League. So I know, you know, what we'd be getting. But then I know some people are like, that's not the type of striker that we should be looking at. We should be looking at an Isak or something like that. So you guys let me know. O'Malley says DCL is only improving too. I mean, he's 24 years old in the England squad. You know, I think maybe it's because he's not fancy, but I like the way he attacks crosses. I like how physically imposing he is. I mean, he would also give us somebody good on defensive, you know, corners and things like that too. And he's a fighter, and his build-up play is not as bad as I think people think it is. It's better than Aubameyang's, you know what I mean? So I think he'd be a good person to maybe consider, but I can tell that this is kind of going to be like some people think yes, some people think no, you know. Bowie the Cat says, Abba needs through balls rather than crosses, but at the same time, when you have Kieran Tierney, who's the future of our club, you would want a striker that could get it done. You know, we shouldn't just ignore a whole part of, you know, a very dangerous asset, because Aubameyang, somebody who's a fading star in our team. I hate to say it, but he's kind of the past. He's coming to the end of his Arsenal career. I would more want to gear my playing style and other players around the assets that I'm going to have for a longer period of time than Aubameyang. You know what I mean? And this is, we're going to be looking at a striker, whether it's this summer or next summer, a striker is coming in. You know what I mean? Nocturnal Gunner says, I would love DCL. PSF said DCL would set Arsenal back. Sean said, I'd go this year without addressing unless Laka leaves and we'll have no choice. Something tells me that Lacazette is going to leave at some point, probably this summer. El Jefe says Calvert-Lewin would be a decent signing and he's a different profile. I think one thing is he's not a typical Arsenal player. You know, we're used to, you know, our Henrys, our Van Persies that were a little bit more slick and finessey and poetry in motion, you know, very skillful, you know, so maybe he doesn't pass the Arsenal eye test, you know what I mean? But I don't really for sure. I want somebody who can get the ball in the back of the net and will be dangerous on crosses and in the box. You know, if we just are hitting balls into that 6-yard box in the penalty box, he's going to get on it. You know, that's very dangerous, even if it's ugly. You know what I mean? Sean says Abba, Balogun, Gabby could work for one season. It could, or it could go very, very wrong. You guys know that I don't think it's good to rely on Balogun if something were to happen to Aubameyang. And let me know when's the last time an Arsenal season has went to plan. You know, I tend to be like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? And let's make sure that if it does happen, we're prepared. And for me, not even to set us up, but at the same time, it's like every single season something happens that shouldn't be happening that we could probably think would happen, but we don't address. Kind of like not having a creative midfielder for the first half of the season. So not having a backup striker with experience for me is one of those things where it looks okay right now, but the minute that Aubameyang is not available, we'd be looking like, wow, we have to wait until January to get a striker. So I think just from the simple fact that Arsenal seasons never go the way that they're supposed to, I think I'd rather address it than risk it if we can. Not that it's a priority, but if there is extra money and we sell Lacazette, I think we need to bring in a striker. Never happened. You guys, a season has never went to like the way we planned it, right? Let's see. Haji says we have young talents at the club. Yes, we do. O'Malley says Woot Workhorse is a little older, but he's a cheaper option than DCL. Yeah, he is. Arsenal Way says news has gone cold on Onana. I think we'll stay with Leno for another season. I mean, he has to go. You know, Leno actually has to leave for us to bring in another starting goalkeeper. So it's unfortunate that we'll probably miss out on Onana, you know, and who knows what will be available when Leno leaves next summer. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Ron Winder says, I heard the club is making at least one big signing and they're keeping it a secret. Is it true? I don't know. I don't know. I would hope that we're going to bring in one big signing or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I want one big signing. Like, I would prefer like multiple biggish signings, you know, like medium signings, you know, if that's okay. Saka can play as a striker? I don't think so. J October says, I'm worried DCL does not have enough variant to his game. I see him more of a penalty box striker. I fear we would be looking at another striker in the next 2 years. That's a good point. Let's see. Arsenal Way says, I'm scared Aston Villa could sell Grealish and bid again for Smith Rowe. I mean, it's been reliably reported by multiple journalists that we're not interested in selling at any price. So many different things would have to happen for Smith Rowe to leave. He would have to want to go to Aston Villa. We would have to want to sell him. Aston Villa would have to give us a fee that's suitable for Smith Rowe. And Jack Grealish would actually have to be going to City. So there's a lot of different factors that would make it, for me, unlikely that he would leave. I think would be a better thing is for them to sell Jack Grealish to City, and then we keep ESR, and they're asked out. There's no reason why we should be giving the ready-made replacement for Jack Grealish to Aston Villa for any amount of money. We complain that, I mean, we want Jack Grealish. Well, we have him. Aston Villa is basically telling us you have the next Jack Grealish, and we want him. No, he's ours. We should keep him. I don't think there's any way that the club sells Emile Smith Rowe. They just don't. He's going to sign a new deal. It's been said multiple times that it's going to happen. So I'm not really that worried about it. Yeah, with the old regime, that would sell any of our young players for peanuts. Yeah, I would think that, but not this regime. That would go against everything that they've already said. They already said they're not selling their best players. Their best young players, they're not selling. 250 million for Smith Rowe. I don't even want to hear about selling Smith Rowe. Sean says Aziz needs to go out on loan. Won't have enough time to give him. Let's see how he does in the pros. Yeah, I would loan out Aziz. And depending if we got the striker in, I would loan out Balogun as well. Abdullahi says, thoughts on Danny Olmo for his teammate Sabitzer. I remember when Ornstein said we are looking for an attacking mid and he can also operate on the right. We were in for Danny Olmo last January and we missed out on him. I think Arteta likes him, but at the same time, he just made that move to Leipzig, and I think his next move will be a bigger move. Does that make sense? Not that we're like super sideways, but we kind of are a little bit, so I think that's one that if we were in Champions League, maybe next season, the season after, or whatever, then maybe we could look at it. But I don't necessarily feel like he addresses our creativity issues. I would say more somebody like Nkunku could do that for us from Leipzig. He would be a better bet. But from Sabitzer, my issue is that he's worth 15 million at this point. You could get him for that, and nobody's linked with him. So that leads me to believe that maybe he's not that I feel like people have to be beating the door down. But Sabitzer's a good player, but nobody wants him at 15 million. I did hear that Roma was interested, but I think the profile of him being like 27, 28 years old, I think, and I'm just not feeling it. When you just are not feeling it, it's not, it doesn't feel right. Something about it doesn't feel right. And so I would say no to both of those. I think we have to go for like a James Maddison type player to play in that position. But that's just me. Or I would take Nkunku. I would. Sean, oh yeah, you already said that. Arsenal Way says Nkunku should be on our radar. Joshua says, Jess, Messi, or Ronaldo. I feel like I answer this question on here like almost every single day. It's just not a debate that I'd like to have because it's a setup. If you don't say Messi, then you don't know ball. If you say Ronaldo, if you say Messi, then, but what about Ronaldo's statistics? They're both very good players. They're the greatest players that we've seen in our lifetimes, probably. Messi keeps himself. Well, Messi has the more natural talent. Ronaldo works hard to keep up with Messi, and he does it very well. Ronaldo is more well-rounded in terms of how he's what he's accomplished. He's done it at international level as well as almost every single club he's been at. Messi, we've only seen him at Barcelona, but he's been at the highest level with Barcelona. So I would say equal. Madison season. Bowie the cat says, have you looked at Paul Anuachu's stats, Jess? No, I haven't. Who is he? Like, where does he play? Give me the details on this person. Priceless Truth Records label Inc. says ESR, Saka, Tierney, Party, and Gabrielle. The rebuild will be done around them. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's more around the philosophy of bringing in like younger players, people with good upside. Thomas really wasn't that, but I do still think we need somebody a little bit more that's been there and done that in the midfield too. So he'll become more of like the Fernandinho of the midfield, and then you have younger players in and around him. Even if you look at like Ben White, he fits that as well as Lukonga. So you can kind of see something taking shape there, I think. Let's see what you guys saying. Deb says, are you concerned with the lack of reports for the right back position? Are we planning to go into the season with Chambers as first choice? Worried or concerned? No. Taking note of it? Yes. I have seen that too. And so I don't know if I'm worried about it or concerned. I'm just gonna wait it out, because also Bellerin is not gone yet. So that's a big part of it, is that if Bellerin does not leave, there's no point in bringing in a right back. You know what I mean? So let's see if he doesn't go, or if he does go and then, we're still not linked, then I'd be more worried. You know what I mean? But let's see if he goes. If he goes, then hopefully we'll start to see some concrete links, because I don't think Ben White, although he can play right back, I don't think we should bring him in to start him there. Let's see. Jordan Shipper says Riddle Baku has to be recruited. Yeah, he's on this channel, we love Riddle Baku. So yeah, I think I would love to have him at Arsenal, but I don't know if he's even on the list. There's about 70 of you guys watching right now. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll go a couple more minutes. Asmaram says ESR has a higher ceiling at this age compared to Jack Grealish at the age of 20. So why do Arsenal need to sell their bright future star in England? Instead, they need to build a good team around ESR Saka. I couldn't agree more. I just feel if the signs are literally telling you that ESR has Jack-like qualities and can be that in the next couple of years. So let's just build around these young players, not really build around them, but just make sure that there's the right profiles in and around them. We're protecting them as well, and watch them grow. I mean, I watched some clips of ESR the other day, and I think I underrated him, during the season. I really do. I think he's a lot better than what most people think. I think he's a lot better. IP says Bellerin needs a new challenge. He has to join a new club. I mean, it's reliably reported that he wants to go. He wants to go to Spain. Let's just see if they can actually put together the funds to bring him in, because I also don't think that we should just be getting rid of him for any amount of money. Deb says ESR rocks the low socks like Grealish. J October says the right back position is underrated. I feel like after the attacking mid, it's our most problematic position last season. Yeah, for sure. I do think it's important, and that can also help Tierney, is making sure, because our right side was so weak that we could only really attack up off the left, so if Tierney is out, we need left back cover, but we also need a star right back in order to just take the pressure off just a little bit. But we can't really start making moves until we know that Bellerin is out the door. And I think that's the main thing maybe holding the club back. So fullbacks on both sides has been reported to be priorities for the club. So let's just see how things pan out. But until Bellerin goes somewhere, I just don't see us doing anything just yet. You know what I mean? Haji says for the right wing position, Arteta is looking in Spain, I heard. I haven't heard that. Where'd you hear that? Who are your sources, Haji? Let me know. Stuart Osborne says it's time to get selling. Yeah, I mean, it's inching along. I think we have to take into consideration that these teams are skint and they're negotiating hard. Nobody wants to give up, those extra millions, to make the deals work. So they're inching along. Mavropanos is out. It looks like Lucas Torreira is on his way out. Xhaka's on his way out. Guendouzi will leave as well. So we're getting some of those fringe players / players that just need to move on out. And then we'll see what we can do about, the Bellerins and these guys, and Lacazette's, we'll see what happens. Oh, Max Aarons, apparently we was interested. Now we aren't. Maybe we're interested in somebody better. I do think we can do better than Max Aarons, to be honest. I think he's really good, but I think I've seen better in other players like Riddle Baku, so we'll see. Ify says, watch ESR YouTube video when he was at Huddersfield. He's awesome. Bowie the Cat says, check Paul Anuachu when the stream is over, Jess. 6'7" striker. Yeah, I'll check it out. Arsenal Way says, I think Zeki Celik is on his way to the Emirates soon. He's 15 million. It's so weird because he's one of those that, I mean, it may have something to do with the fact that Turkey was horrendous in the Euros, but he did not impress me. But at the same time, I want to be consistent and say that in terms of people having a good tournament, I don't think we should recruit from European tournaments or national team tournaments. I don't think we should do that. So on the other direction as well, players that have bad tournaments with their national teams, I don't think we should take that into like, okay, that they're a bad player. For his club team, he's been really good. We have a really good relationship with Leo, which I think we need to keep, together. So if he's good and that's what the club wants, then it is what it is. I didn't think he was great with Turkey, but like nobody was good for Turkey, Ify says, when is Elneny leaving? He is never linked away from Arsenal because he's getting a new deal. Football fan says, tell me your lineup against Germany. I don't know if I'm the right person to give one of these because, American. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't want to offend anybody or anything. But it's so difficult, because I feel like they basically the front four that started against Czech Republic should start again, so who is that? Harry Kane. You can't drop him now. It's too late. You could play Saka off the right, Grealish and Sterling. I think you can't drop Sterling because he's the only player from England that's actually scored a goal. Harry Kane, you can't drop him. So between Grealish and Saka, do you put Foden back in? I'm not quite sure because he plays off of the left for Man City. So really shouldn't be playing him off the right now. It doesn't really fit. Maybe you could bring Sancho in. Maybe they're waiting for his deal for Manchester United to go through so he's not distracted or something like that. So maybe Saka / Sancho against Germany, if that's what you want to do. I would say aren't Mount and Chilwell still out because of, being near the kid from Scotland. What is his name? What's his name, you guys? I can never remember his name. So I would say you play Declan Rice and you play Jordan Henderson. I think you need something different in the midfield. Something about Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice feels very repeatable, very same players doing the same things. Billy Gilmore, that's the same. So, yeah, that's your pivot. And then I would say you continue with Walker because he's your experienced right back. I know that some people don't like him, but it just is what it is at this point. I think you shouldn't be shaking it up at this point. You should kind of just go with what you've been doing. Maguire and Stones and Shaw and Pickford. So Pickford, Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw, Henderson, Rice, Sancho / Saka. I would prefer just Saka, but still Sancho's such a good player. It's just, I don't know, but Saka really should be starting because it's like he's actually done something. Sancho hasn't, but if they did put Sancho in, I wouldn't really cry about it, to be honest, you guys. Jack Grealish as the 10, Sterling off the left, and Harry Kane as the striker. That's what I would say. Joshua A says, shouldn't both Scotland and England be isolating? That situation is very confusing to me. PSF says, as long as Walker, Rice, Phillips, Sterling, and Kane play, England will win. Well, I don't know about Phillips. I think that game that he played, it was a little bit, not, I don't want to be mean, but I think it was a little bit overblown. And the last game, he was not great. Actually, the last 2 games, he hasn't been great. So I would say you want to maybe get somebody a little bit different. I think Henderson has a little bit more of some more depth to his passing range. He can do a little bit something more. You could also, if you play Henderson, you could play a more attacking right back for Liverpool. He tends to cover the right back. That's what he does with Trent. So if you wanted to do that, you could just drop Henderson in there, let him kind of sit in for the right back and have a more progressive right back. You could play maybe Reece James in that position. But either way, it's more about just, I think, the mindset of England and just getting over whatever mind thing this is, making Southgate understand that this team needs the handbrake off to get things done, but it's going to be a difficult task against Germany. If you look at the right-hand side, Walker, I think you have to almost play him because Gosens will be on that side. You need somebody with experience that can also recover. That's important too. Gosens is pretty much their biggest threat. And then you're going to have the front 3 of Mueller, Havertz and Gnabry. So that's going to be difficult for them as well. But I think the back line pretty much speaks for itself. It's that front 4, especially the 3 behind the striker. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Southgate, or if he moves into a 3-4-3 and goes even more conservative. That makes the players on the left and the right-hand side of Harry Kane even more important. So we'll definitely see. Yeah, Reece James does have experience, but experience with your national team is different than experience with your club team. Very much so, 100%. Like, I don't really think it translates. I think it's different, so if I'm Southgate and I'm choosing between Reece James or Kyle Walker, I'd probably choose Kyle Walker for his experience with the national team. Reece James, to me, is a very good player, but you're going to be coming up against Gosens. You need to have a little bit of something about you. I just think he needs a little bit more experience maybe with his national team. But if he played there, that's not to say he's not a good player. He is definitely a good player still, So Bellingham, I think he's who I would just naturally feel like is a better choice next to a more defensive-minded central midfielder. So next to your Declan Rice, next to your Calvin Phillips. But the reality is I don't think Southgate quite trusts him to start in games just yet. I don't know if I would either because, again, like, he's so young, but maybe if things needed to be shaken up, like, ultimately it would be better to have Declan Rice plus Bellingham. I just don't think that's going to happen, so hey. All right, you guys. So that's going to be it for today. We did about 1 hour and 7 minutes, which is much longer than I thought we were going to go. I was like, well, maybe like 30 minutes, but we ended up talking a lot longer. You guys know I never really know what I'm going to be doing. But I will show up tomorrow at some point with a stream for you guys, maybe Arsenal related, Euros related, maybe something a little bit in between. So keep out the lookout for that. There's still about 56 of you guys watching, so make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Don't be afraid to get in the comments and let me know what you thought about the stream. If there's some questions that you had that didn't get answered, please feel free to drop them there and I will get to them. Share this with a friend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys. Thank you.